Hello, how are you today? It's Friday. Wow. Friday. How wonderful. I hope you're doing great today. Is it time for you to create your next or maybe even your first speaker's one sheet? Starting today, let's write ours together, either your first one or your next one. Whether you're creating one from scratch or you're updating one. Let's create it over the next four Friday episodes exclusively, shall we? It'll be fun. We'll learn together. We will come away with a professional looking speaker's one sheet. I'm fixing to tell you what that is in case you don't know it, what it is. I'm Patricia Durkin, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission, the live show for every Christian with a message to market. You know, there are so many moving pieces to marketing your message online. We help you master all of them one at a time. So, are you up for it? Are you up for the challenge? It's way past time for me to update my speakers. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to tell you how long it's been since I updated mine. So I won't share that secret. So first, what is a speaker's one sheet? Well, I have several to show you. You know, I love showing you samples and resources, examples and resources. Hello, Michael Gant. So good to see you, sir. I hope you're doing well. Hey, Elaine, how are you? It's a speaker's one sheet, for those who don't yet know what that means, is a one piece, 8.5 by 11, front and back, description of what you're capable of, the topics that you can discuss and make presentations about, the results that your presentations create for your audience members. Very important. They have compelling headlines and titles of presentation topics. Lots of pieces that go along together with it, including a great, fantastic headshot, and as well as hopefully some shots in action. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so hold on. I want to first start by showing you an example. You know, I love doing that, so let's show you one. Yesterday, Edie Melson was kind enough to be my special guest, and she allowed me to interview her about her upcoming conference. Where is hers? Oh, here we are. Nope. Where are you, Edie? Now, this is Edie Melson's one sheet, speaker's one sheet. Let's back up for just a second and realize that authors are often, but not always, speakers as well, even if they never intended to be a speaker. Speaking helps us get our message out. The message that Christ has gifted us to serve, that we share in our written form in a book, may never be read by our ideal target market. But we can go out in social media and Facebook live shows like what I'm doing right now, in speaking presentations, at conferences, and we can share that message. But who's going to invite us? People who don't know us? Sure. There will be people there who are inviting us and who are interested in us because they've seen us somewhere else. That's true. But what if you're just starting or you're ramping up to a new level? Inevitably, people who have no idea who you are, what you do, what you talk about, and what benefit there is to the audience that you offer. And particularly people who are in charge of conferences and events, they are very protective of the people that present at their events because they, take that role of protector in some part of the people that they serve, the attendees of the event. So it behooves us, it's our burden as a speaker or a writer, if we want to get out into that speaking world and present, we need to have a speaker's one sheet. They come and go in popularity. It's still good to have one though. So here's Edie's. I really like hers. I'm going to show you several. We go from all the way from very staid and proper to wild and crazy. And then I'm going to give you a list and explain to you how to fill the list of things you'll need to have in place for next Friday's show when we actually start creating our one sheet. So Edie, she's got her promise right here. Her name, obviously, find your voice, live your story. That's her overall message promise, her brand promise. Then she jumps right in. Of course, we've got a photograph, a great graphic behind that, everything, as her foundation. Then she jumps right into her ministry topics. She has great headlines and a single paragraph blurb, which we're going to come back to. Then she has testimonials, which we all need, and we've done a show. I've already done a show on those. I'll find that link and email that to you. I won't email it to you. I'll add it to the top of this video. And then her contact information. All right, so that's Edie. Let's go look at another. Now, I don't know the other people. I only know Edie so far. Sarah, it's got her name and a great photograph right up front, right? That's her header. And then her promise is both. She's got two. She's got a tagline: leadership, presence, and results. And then she has her promise: taking your talent to the next level. Okay? I'm not going to do these exhaustively, but I want you to see, if you've never happened to have seen one before, I want you to get some sort of a feel for what we're talking about, what the goal is for a finished one sheet, so that you can understand what we're doing and accept the challenge. Join me the next 3 Fridays, because today's the first of 4. We'll create our own one sheet right here in class. She's got her contact information, her social media, the fact that she's a member of the National Speakers Association, on and on. She's got a client list. These are the things that we want to do too. Now, ours will look different. Hers is business associated, which is only semantics. Unless we let it be a stopping block or an obstacle, there's no need for that to be a problem for us at all. The fact that we're ministry-minded and hers is business-minded makes no difference. Still need the same elements, okay? One more, and I'm going to check and see. Now, look at this one. This is the one I was referring to that is wild and crazy. Derry Latimer. Now, of course, this would, if we printed this out, we printed out a typical, or she mailed us a typical one sheet, speaker's one sheet, then it would be still one piece of paper, front and back. And she's chosen to include both side by side. But this is not normally presented this way. This is just for ease of use online. Now, I have some problems with this, even though she doesn't know or care what I think. I do have some problems because I'm visually, even though I'm vision impaired, I'm also visually oriented. I've mentioned that before. So this is a lot of activity on this page, isn't it? But what does it tell us about Derry? It tells us so much. Even before we look at the words and begin reading, we already know so much more about her personality, don't we? Now, going back to Sarah, we have one picture of Sarah, very, very businesslike, and that's appropriate. She has a business message. And we have Edie. Let's go back up to her. Now, what I like so much about Edie's, there's so many different things, is the actual background is compelling. And then she puts text box and photographs on top of that, almost like a scrapbook. And she's very creative, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was her master plan all along. Let me check and see if we have any comments. Comments or questions, feel free to add them in the comment box, and I will see them and respond. So glad you're here. All right, so Derry has lots of colors, a little bit too much color for my taste, but it's her taste. It represents her perfectly. So imagine that you are a conference director or an event coordinator, a planner, and you're wondering, is Derry a good fit? This is what you're wondering when you're looking at a speaker's one sheet when you don't know the speaker, right? This is advertising. This is marketing, where we combine photographs, testimonials, colors, even the text on the page, contact information, and all the elements. There are only a few elements that are necessary, but there's millions of ways to arrange them and rearrange them in a compelling or an attention-getting way. All right, so we've looked at Edie's. We've looked at Sarah's. So I think that's everything I want to show you. Yes, there's lots. You can always look up online. You can Google speakers one sheets, plural or singular, and you will be inundated with examples. Take what you like. Look at, see what you like, might have a certain idea in your mind before you even start looking, and then you do some research and you find, I really like the way that she or he has presented that element. The way that they have included their testimonials is really, really professional looking to me. You want to look at the fonts, and obviously the colors and the photographs, but the fonts that they're using, how they have a larger headline, the font for, how they have a larger font and a bolder font for headlines and subheadlines, while they have different content for different font for their content. So what do we want to do? I'm going to stop sharing this. Here's what I'd like for you to gather between now and this time next Friday. 2 of the 5 elements that I want you to gather are time consuming. So definitely want to cover them in a little bit of depth. The first 3 are easy peasy. All right, well, let's do them first. The links, your links to your website, if you have one, and all of your social media platforms. Now, if you don't have a website, that does not mean you can't be a speaker. Is God calling you to be a speaker? Is He calling you to step out in faith? Then do it. Create a one sheet, start handing it out. We'll talk about that in the weeks to come, so I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So if you have a website, gather that link. If you have social media, gather those as well. That's the very first one, and it won't take you 5 minutes. Don't create. Do what you want to, what Christ tells you to, of course. But as far as for the sake of this one sheet creation, this workshop over the next 3 Friday episodes, don't open up a brand new social media platform just to be able to put that on your one sheet, okay? Unless you are compelled to do that, don't do it for the sake of the one sheet. So we want the links to your website and your social media. Then we want to know, what colors do you want to use? I talked a while back, I had a previous episode of several of the different things that we're talking about. I'll mention those, and after the show, I will add links to each of those episodes. It may take me a while because some of them are a little bit buried. But give me half an hour and I'll have it done. We'll add the links to the shows that include or focus on some of the things that I'm telling you. One of those is deciding about your color palette, choosing which colors you want to use for your one sheet. They would typically coincide with and or be the exact same color palette that you currently use when your logo and your website, if you have either one of those. I do have a show helping you just make those decisions, choose those color palettes and some resources, and that's what I'll link above. Then your logo, if you have one. Again, don't create one just for the purpose of your one sheet, but if you are graphically minded or you have a friend who'd like to gift you with one, go for it, baby. Go for it. Let me check and see if we have any. Any responses? Hello, Janice. How are you today? So glad to see you. We're talking about creating a one sheet starting today over the next 3 weeks now for a total of 4 weeks. We're doing a mini workshop, and the end of it, we will have a completed, updated, brand new one sheet, speaker one sheet. All right. So let me go back to this so that I don't start cascading. All right, let's talk about a headshot. Or did bells start going off in your mind immediately? Too much trouble, too much money, can't do it, don't look good. Forget all that. Forget all that. You look wonderful. None of us look beautiful every moment of every day. We know that instinctively. That's not any news to you. But we want to ignore the enemy when he's suggesting that that's the case for us, that we never look good. There's no color that we look good in. There's no position, no pose that helps us look our best. There's no location that will be intriguing. There's no hairdo or hair color or haircut that will be beneficial to us. This is a lie from the pit. If Christ has called you or me to be a speaker, there are certain standards that are expected in the community, in the field of speaking. And unless he tells you different, unless Christ tells you different, there's no reason to think that you can't meet the mark. So we want a great headshot. If you have one already, perfect. You want it to be you want it to be, it might be a full body or an upper body. Also, you might want it to, because you'll need several for your one sheet, but we're talking exclusively for the headshot right now. Have it from your bust up or your neck up. Don't cut it off here, okay? If you have a beautiful one that you love already, crop it if it's too long, too large. Crop it so that but don't crop it so tight that looks like you're chin is resting on the edge of the photograph, okay? Give yourself some neck. Everybody has necks. We want to see that. And so we want to create, gather the one that we have. If we already have one we like, then if you have one that you like, but you don't love the background for it, okay, there's a way to get rid of the background. I created another episode previous to this one showing you how to do that. I'll add that link above this video as well, so you can go through that class, that episode. Let's see what else we want to talk about that. Oh, yes. If you don't currently have a headshot that you love, next week I'm going to show you how to take a great photo right in your front yard that you can use for your headshot. You may have to remove the background after the headshot is created. You may love it. There's no telling what's going to happen. We're going to show you next week how to, in your own front yard, with no money, extra money, how to capture your personality. That's what we want to do, not just a cold, we're not looking for a banker photograph, right? We want to capture your personality. There's tips to do that. Let's see, what else do we need? I'm going to check the Facebook group, see if we have any. Yes, this is the biggie. So the ones that I mentioned, there were I mentioned there were 3 that were easy, and they were. I mentioned there were 2 that were time consuming. And the headshot might not be time consuming if you've already been fortunate enough to have one professionally done, or you have a spouse or a friend who's a great photographer. You know, all you have to do is just go outside on your front porch, click, and, you know, you look like $1 million. Great for you, you know, blessings. Blessings, my child. However, moving on to the second time-consuming project or element that you need to have for next week is you want to create or develop 3 to 5 presentation topics. And what does that mean? Well, it's a simple paragraph that allows the reader, remember, we're going to assume that the reader for this one sheet has never engaged with you. They haven't been in the room with you. They haven't breathed the same air as you. They don't know your personality or your character. They are totally dependent upon what they see on that single one front and back of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. That's a pretty daunting task, isn't it? But you can do it. You can do it. We're going to work on it together. So what do we do? Let's see. We want to have a compelling title. I've done a show. You're going to hear this a few more times during this episode. I've done a prior episode that helps you find great, fantastic, attention-getting, appropriate headlines for your presentations or your books or your articles or your blog posts, whatever format that you want to use them in. It's a wonderful, I didn't create it, I'm just borrowing it. So often we can find things online, the magic of being online. There are definitely negatives to being online, but there's also great positives. If we know how to look, we figure out what it is that we're trying to discover. How can we learn from other people? Then we find that information, we collect it, we gather it, collate it, let it germinate in our head, and the Holy Spirit helps us come up with a version unique to us. This is how it works. We want to do that very same thing. So I encourage you to do that research. Find out what else is going on online for other speakers. I'll give you some links to some speaker one sheet website. Can't think of what I'm trying to say. Where a lot of one sheets are all together. You could go to one website page and look and see what many different speakers have done. You don't have to do that, but that's a resource that I'm going to share with you after this episode. You want to figure out, if you've been speaking for a while, this is a no-brainer. You just pull the ones you've already had off your current one sheet. But what if it's time to update it, rejuvenate it, renew it? It's time possibly to get that creative juice running again and create new blurbs. So a presentation blurb for a topic on your one sheet, 3 to 5. We want a compelling headline that fits both your style of communication and the topic itself, all right? Then we also want to have a paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences, maybe 7, but be careful. It's not a book. It's not a tiny ebook. 3 to 5 sentences is usually good, but follow the Holy Spirit's guidance. telling the event planner, conference director, person inviting you to speak, regionally or locally, at Toastmasters, what is it that you're going to deliver? What are you going to talk about in 3 to 5 sentences? You're going to have the headline, and then you're going to have 3 to 5 sentences about what you're going to talk about, specifics as much as possible in a short period of time, with results. It takes a while to do this, to meet this particular goal. That's why I want to get right on it this first week. You're not going to put it on your one sheet next week. We're not going to be that far along, but it takes time and creativity, and we want to ponder and research and look and pray to come up with the blurbs, the presentation blurb that best fits you. So let me check Facebook one more time. I want to tell you something else. All right. So what if you're just starting? Or what if you're starting a new topic? You're starting to deliver on a new subject. It's always wise to start where we began, with our personal story. Always. That doesn't mean that you have to. That doesn't mean that you should. But if you're looking at a big blank wall in front of you and thinking, hey, I got nothing. We've all experienced that. Start with your story. Whether and even if you never present that presentation, deliver that presentation, it will get your creative juices flowing. And if it's appropriate, and if it's part of your brand, then do start the first one with your story. Don't be worried about where you're going to place it at this time on the one sheet. Don't worry about all the crazy stuff, okay? Don't let the details bog you down. Just 3 to 5 presentation topics with a great headline that's going to stop somebody walking by and seeing it just on the poster board. Oh, I want to go to that. So nothing dull, okay? Nothing dull. If you can't figure it out, then we will throw some around next week. And I'll give you my opinions, if that's great, or maybe that could be punched up a little bit. Then 3 to 5 sentences explaining what that headline means, and what if they're going to hire you for that presentation, then what can their attendees expect to hear, and tie in a result. Now, that doesn't mean you have to say headline, 3 to 5 sentences, this is the result. You just weave it in. You're writing a story. You write stories all the time. Writers and speakers, particularly Christian writers and speakers, are gifted communicators. You have a specific audience that God has gifted you to serve. And you have a specific message that He has gifted you to deliver. They want what you're offering. The better we can be, the more clear that we can be in our speaker one sheet, the more likely we're going to find ourselves in front of audiences who are interested in what we have to say. Some people create one sheets that are so vague or so bland and so general. Number one, I don't think that they get hired very often, because that's not how it works. But for those who do get in that odd mix that they weren't very compelling, but they got hired anyway. Those people are not gifted to serve your audience like you are. That event planner is not going to know what to expect. We build our reputation, don't we? One step at a time. We serve with excellence here, locally. Then perhaps Christ gives us an opportunity to serve regionally, and we serve with excellence. And then nationally or internationally. I haven't had that pleasure, that honor, that privilege, but I know many who have, and they've earned every opportunity that Christ has given them. You already know how to communicate. All you want to do is sit down and write a simple paragraph explaining through your eyes what your take is on, your approach is on this topic. And that's your compelling headline. All right, let's see what else we have to say. What else may we be able to talk about? All right, so let's review the list. For next Friday's episode, I'd like for you to have already gathered a great headshot if you have one. And if you don't fret. We'll talk about it next week. Links to your website and social media platforms, but don't create anything new, all right? Don't stress if you don't have that yet. Christ may want you to become a speaker before you have a website, or vice versa. That's up between you and Him. So don't put roadblocks in his way, okay? 3, your preferred color palette. 4, your logo, if you have one. And 5, 3 to 5 presentation blurbs, which are short paragraphs with great headlines and a promised result. All right? Anybody have anything to say? Anybody have a comment? Do you have a question? Would you like to join me? I hope you do. I hope you do. This has been episode, let me go back over here. This has been episode number 44 for Marketers on a Mission. The first in a series of 4 Friday sessions to write our speakers one sheet together. I've been hosting a lot of interviews with Christian conference directors. You've noticed that in these past weeks. And I'll host more in the coming weeks. Why? What's the deal with all of a sudden we've got conference directors over there? Because conferences, particularly Christian conferences, can change your career, your life, your ministry, your business. They can transform it. And they're seasonal. The bulk of them are in the spring and the fall. So in the spring, we'll have more interviews from Christian writers and speakers, conference directors. And in the fall, we'll do the same. In the summer and the winter, there won't be as many. Because I want you to be informed, educated, so you can make the best decisions, understand what the process is. Whatever it is that's facing you right now, and the question that you're asking Christ for illumination on, I want to give that to you or be a part of you receiving that information. So part of that equation is informing you as to what the opportunities are out in the world for conferences and other places of higher learning so that you can, with God's help, take your message to the next level. But there's a caveat. You know, I love interviews. I love doing interviews. But this is not an interview show per se. The main focus of this show is training you how to take your message online. So whether you're just going online or you've been online for years, there's always more to learn, isn't there? It's just it's like parenting. There's always something new, a new challenge. And so Monday, we'll be right back to training right here at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining me. Until then, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission. Have a good weekend.